Nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
It's good.
How does it feel to be out?
It feels good. If I'm honest, it felt a bit strange. Still, even yesterday, I've just been glued to my son, who's sitting there politely filming, probably very tired.
What I love is seeing your post this morning saying up at 6:30.
I know, yeah.
We've got a very special guest.
He walked in my room at 4:30 this morning.
But I saw the manic text going backwards and forwards. Tell me what it was like inside.
What was it like? Long. Days are long. A day can feel, in isolation, a day can feel like a week, essentially, because you're just sat there. I don't know how to explain it. And do you know, in prisons are usually loud, boisterous places. Mine was total silence where I was, because they cleared everywhere. So it was strange, because you just sat in the room all day. And then they got me out, and walked me across to another unit. But then I spent the 2 hours, 2.5 hours there, just on my own again, walking around. It was just long. Days were long, and days were long. And I guess it was I guess if I'd committed serious crime, I probably wouldn't have felt the resentment I was feeling sitting there. I knew I shouldn't be there, and I found it totally unfair in the sense that jihadists, baby killers, Axel Rudakabana, Salman Abedi's brother, are not being held in these conditions. In fact, there's no one in the British prison system that they allow to be held in solitary confinement. But yet they fought to have me in solitary confinement. And when I looked it all up, because I was in there, that's meant to be the last resort. Yeah. Isolation. There's a 14-day rule. It's called the Mandela Rule. Yeah. They just didn't care about any of it. The government, and it was the government stamping it. Every 42 days, it was the government, because the prison can't, because of the damage it does. And my worry and my concern the whole time was what it's going to do. Yeah. That's what I was worried about, because when I was in last time, I said I think I went into prison one person and come out another, and that was from 3.5 months, 3 months in solitary confinement. This time, I did have physical exercise. I was in a better place physically for exercise. I was so scared and worried about going into prison beforehand. So
you were worried about attacks on you?
No, crazily. I've got the documentation. So in my first meeting with psychologists in the prison, I said I'd rather have a physical fight every day than you mentally break me here. Because as I said, when I come out of prison last time, I think 2018, for 4 years, I was damaged. For years, actually. I struggled a lot. So that damage is far different to the fear of having a physical altercation. And I said that to the prison. I said, I don't want you to hold me. I was worried, because I'm doing 9 months, totally in a room on my own for 9 months, about talking to people, seeing people, and then just walk me out the prison door in 9 months. Because I remember last time I thought I was all right when I walked out, and then it felt like I hit a brick wall. I just couldn't interact with my family. So all those things were worrying me.
So lots of reports about the conditions there, and people get different ideas of solitary. Somebody said to me that what you're in is a wing by yourself for your own protection. Was that right?
So that's what they did. So, which I didn't want to be in, which is the point I kept saying. I've not asked you to separate me. You brought me, and they said, but you're going to be in danger here, serious danger. I said, of course I'm going to be in serious danger. You brought me to a maximum security prison that has a 40% Muslim population, 50% of them are murderers, many are terrorists, and you've brought me here for a civil offence. Why am I here? I said, it's insane. So for a civil offence, you'd go to a category D prison, which there were ones. We found one called Britannia House that only has 40 prisoners, none of them are Muslim. So I would have been totally safe there. You would go out and work every day outside of the prison. I would go home for 5 days in a month, from a Friday to a Tuesday. I would work every day outside the custody. You literally just go back and sleep in the prison. You have your own key to your room. That's the facilities I should have been in for the so-called crime. Let's not call it a crime, because it wasn't a crime. It's not a criminal offence. It's a civil offence.
Contempt of court, wasn't it?
Contempt of court. It's a civil offence.
And that was commuted because you basically took down the video? It
was commuted because, my team... Well, when I was sentenced, the judge gave me the option in court, take down the video and I will reduce the sentence, but I didn't want to take down the video. I thought I should still have the right to do my jail time and come out and the video still be there. But then they made a decision in court papers 4 weeks before I was out. There was Section 17, which was from the 3 most senior judges in the country, who made the decision that the day I walk out of prison, I'm still committing live contempt. So the Attorney General, Labour's Keir Starmer's Attorney General, was going to re-prosecute me, which would be an automatic 2-year prison sentence again. And then they'd do it again. So basically I got told, if you do not delete the film, you're going to face an indefinite prison sentence.
That all makes sense. Just coffee. It's
Oh,
okay.
that's
I know you said you get used to something, but get worried about a knock on the door. So it's basic.
I just look forward to a knock on the door.
I know.
No, they're going to hand some crisps in.
I don't know, big spot. But talk about conditions there. I'm back on solitary. You had a kettle, you had a television, you could get access to emails and things like that.
So basically now in every prison, what they give you, which was new, is they give you a electrical device where emails come through to it. So when people email in, but every email is monitored and read. So if you mention anything, for example, I put in one. I had a friend and I said, we go back. I was talking to someone in the email. I said we go back years to the EDL days, and they blocked sending of it. So then I took the word EDL out, tried to send it again, and it sent. So, but yeah, I had everyone has an email. Everyone has a computer.
Right.
You can have a kettle. I don't think everyone should have a kettle because so many people.
You heard about what happened.
Yeah, but that's happening. I don't think people understand the level it's happening. In Wood Hill, on the one day where there was an officer who was stabbed in the head, did you see that on the news? Yeah. There was 3 officers attacked just that day. Right. Now I spend not much time. I get walked from A to B, and obviously I was always asking questions of the staff. Yeah. But when I was getting walked from A to B in one 7-day period, a female officer had her nose broke, a male officer lost his teeth, and another officer was attacked with boiling water. That's what I knew about just in my interactions of being walked from here to there, listening to the radios. Right. So there are, I think when you see servicemen, I think servicemen should have a round of applause and people should shake their hands and thank you for them service. I now have to take that opinion that that's what people need to be doing when they see prison officers.
And did they treat you well?
They were fabulous. Right. There was a problem from the top, but the individual officers...
What was the problem?
The problem was they messed with everything they could possibly mess with. So my phones, and I've got the paperwork, I'll share it. Yeah. So when I used to get taken at 8:30 in the morning to a wing, which is where the jihadists, it's built for the jihadists, but there were no jihadists on that unit, so it was empty, which is where they took me every day until the Franklin attack, and then they brought the jihadists there. But when they took me there, so my phone would go on at 8 till 8:30 in the morning for half hour, and 11:45 till 12:15 for half hour. So I had my time slots that they'd turn my phone on because I was on live monitoring calling, and I kept saying, why am I on live monitoring calling? Then, so on the jihadist wing, it's got their phone time. So I've got the paper, I took it. I thought, okay, their phone goes on at 6 in the morning till 11 p.m. They're not on live monitor calls. So I've got it in black and white, Wood Hill Prison's paperwork for the jihadist wing. Their phones are on from 6 to 11. My phone gets on for half hour here, half hour there. And when I'm waiting for those half hours, do you know, as a father, I've got 3 kids. And when you're isolated, it may seem mad, and my son probably thinks I used to ring him every day. Right. Yeah. But I'd wait for that phone call. I'd be panicking. You end up panicking about silly things. I'm panicking all the time. And if I know they're out at a party that night, then I'm waiting from 4 in the morning, just waiting till it gets to 8 o'clock to ring up and just say, are they okay? And panicking about stuff. But then they just wouldn't turn the phone on. And they've done it so many times.
Was that the hardest bit about being inside? Not having contact with your family, the big birthdays?
No contact, no control. You could wait all day, and I don't know, it may not sound like much, but when you're sat, say, I used to get out for the 3 hours, 2.5 hours, then I'd sit back in my cell for 21 hours on the blue mat, which is like the bed, until the next morning when I do the same. But when you're doing that, and then I'd wait all day for the phone call, because there was the evening phone time, and they put it on at 6 then, I'd wait all day to make a call to my kids, and they wouldn't turn the phone on. And I'm ready to explode because I'm panicking and worrying and wanting to talk to my family. And then the more of the injustice, because I'm thinking, every single prisoner here, in this whole jail, no one's on live monitoring calls. The terrorists are on live monitoring calls. Why have I got someone sitting listening to every minute of my call? Why am I at maximum security visiting room? So in a visit hall, you usually have a big visit hall, and the prison officers are sat 20 metres away over there. Yeah. I had my kids on a visit, 2 officers are sat there. Yeah. 6 cameras.
Is that right? So talk about visitors, because a number of people who've been on the Andrew Eborn show, they talked about going to visit you. I know we've had Andrew Bridgen on, Lawrence Fox, and so on and so forth. Did they have to sign an NDA?
They made them sign NDAs, then they blocked everyone, literally, she blocked everyone, the head governor. They just refused visitors, and that's the same. So I'd wait for a visit, and they'd do it the day before. So you're waiting to see people, and then just your visit's cancelled. And then your phone call's cancelled. And it may not seem like a lot, but those little things, when you're isolated anyway, it's a strange thing to explain, I don't know. The effect of isolation and my panicking, because I can remember last time, the problems I had when I come out. And it was only then, I think after 3-4 years of being out, that I found physical exercise in the gym, which I wish I found when I was 18. But my son's found it, and he's on beast mode already.
There you go.
Taught him that since I've taught him that train. I'd say to anyone, any problems you have in life will be solved with physical exercise.
And that's what we say, you go for a walk in the countryside, work on that sort of basis.
Nature.
And how are you feeling in yourself now?
I feel all right. Well, I feel strange, but I would do. It's all natural. Last time I didn't expect it. So it's a natural effect and consequence. I obviously looked into and knew what the problems of isolation and the injustice of it was talking to the prison. We're meant to be in an era where mental health matters. Yeah. That's all we ever hear about. Yeah. Outside independent medical experts come and assessed me in prison and said that the damage they're doing now and the mental damage is going to have a lasting long-term effect by continually isolating him as a prisoner and holding him under these conditions. The prison didn't care. The government actually blocked any attempt to have me released at the same time as the criminals. As a civil prisoner, I served 3 times as long as in prison as I would have done if I was a criminal. Right. I was not allowed the 60% off that the Labour government brought in. So the Labour government brought in a policy that you get 60% off because the prisons are full. So they're opening the doors, letting violent criminals out. When they first let them out that first time, one went into murder the next day. So they're opening the doors, letting violent criminals out to replace them with people who said mean things on Facebook. Fill in the prisons with all these people, but when I go in as a civil offender for playing a film, I'm put in a maximum security facility, and they refused to give me the 60% off. So then we went to court on appeal for the verdict, and usually if you're in court, that's the police next to you and the Crown Prosecution Service. With mine, it was the Attorney General and the Labour government. So it is political. There's no other there can't be an argument about it. It's political. They're there arguing to keep me in prison, but it's their policy. I said, you're the ones who brought in the 60%, but you don't want me to have the 60%. And when they say prisons are full, when I got brought in, I had 16 cells where I was held on my own. So that's 16 cells I couldn't use. Then to let me have any sort of exercise, which I had to because I was a civil prisoner, to bring me to a unit where I could have exercise, there was 13 cells there. Right. So that was kept empty.
Crazy.
I had 40 cells. The 40 cells. For what? And they're all kept empty. Right. So it's like, we're letting everyone out, violent criminals, you don't have spaces, but you're using up 40 cells for me, and on a prison wing, there's 60 prisoners and there's 3 staff. Right. I had 2 staff the whole time. Crazy. So it's like, none of it made sense. None of it made sense.
We're going to discuss a lot more about this, unpack it, because what I love about this is it gives you a chance to say in your own voice, not going to take out sound bites just for the sake of doing it. If this is the last interview you ever did, what would you like to say to people about the real Tommy Robinson, how you'd like to be remembered?
Not perfect, an average man, just honest in the sense of it. I don't have, and I say, I've never pretended to be anything I'm not. I'm a working class kid from Luton Town. I've seen the problems. Do you know what I'm guilty of? Being a decade ahead. Yeah. That's it. I'm guilty of being a decade ahead. Never believe the media. They have a narrative to push, they have an agenda. The whole reason I was deplatformed and censored is because they don't want you having the other side of the story. They actually don't want you being able to make your own mind up. And this attack on me, and it's not just on me, I think when COVID hit, I think people realised people were happy when it was us getting censored. All of a sudden they started censoring doctors, nurses, medical professionals. Yeah? The net just went wider and wider. You may think you're on the right side of free speech today, but so long as you allow globalist agendas to dictate what free speech is, and corporations above governments to decide what you can and can't say, whether it be the European Union or any of these things, with their new hate speech policies or whatever they're bringing in to control the story and the narrative, then you may find yourself, you might think you're on the right side of free speech now, but at some point you can find yourself on the wrong side. Yeah. And I think free speech, this all comes down to free speech, it all comes down to their attack to censor me is about censoring you. Yeah, they may want to attack me, but that's so that you don't get the story. And just let the public make their own mind up.
Yeah. Tommy, welcome out.
No, thanks.
And we will continue the conversation.
Got a hot chocolate?
That's good. So, Tommy, what's next?
What's next? Next we're going to unite the kingdom, and I mean unite this country, which I think is what puts fear of God into those that don't want us to be united. I think our last 3 events, which have been family-friendly, celebrationary events, we want to celebrate British culture, celebrate British identity, and bringing everyone together for those events. And on the 13th of September, we're going to hold, which will be seen as the biggest free speech festival Europe's had. And that's next. And my work. I think I'm in a unique position with my journalism and people who are watching it. I like to challenge ideas. I like to make people think. I like to let people see what I've seen. And as I said, all I'm guilty of is being a decade ahead. I've seen the problems. If we continue to hide from these problems, they're just going to get worse. We need to highlight them and discuss them at least and talk about them. So next is, I want to get to work. I want to unite this country. I want to unite Britain.
And we often say if you don't read the newspaper, you're ill-informed. If you read the newspapers, you're misinformed.
Yeah.
What is the thing that people don't understand about you? What's the biggest misrepresentation in the press?
Do you know how frustrating it is to see people? I have people who have said things to me in the past, and when I ask them, like, you're racist, and I challenge them and say, why do you think that? What is it? Give me an example. And they just look. I said, what is it I've said? Why do you dislike me? Yeah. They don't even know. I said, you dislike me because you've been told to dislike me. You've been told I'm this person. Even most Muslims, when I meet Muslims, they say, you're actually right. I said, yeah, because you've got this opinion of me. And I've said it so many times. So, yeah, I think the misconception is what the media want you to think. They've managed successfully to tarnish me and make me toxic, which is now difficult for them, because they can make you toxic so long as they can tell people how to think about me. But then now I have my own platform, thanks to Elon Musk buying the free speech platform of X, and now I can people can hear what I think and what I'm saying. So the misconception is I'm not far right, never have been, never will be. The actual genuine far right despise me. The genuine racists despise me. But what's become so weak is we've given the term far right to anyone who disagrees with the communist, Marxist, open border policies of globalism.
Right. Now, Elon's been supportive of you very publicly. What would you like to say to him?
I'm forever grateful. I'm forever grateful that he has given opportunity for the people in this country to have a voice on both sides. It's not like he bought X and just gave one side of political debate. It's for everyone, whereas before it was for one side. And that's it. So I think I've said many times, Elon will be remembered, I think, in history as the man that saved free speech. And in this country, it's been eroded, it's been taken, and the public have been fearful. And they wanted you to think you're part of a fringe group when you're not. You're the mainstream. The majority of the British public want to defend British culture, want to celebrate identity, don't want to be made to feel ashamed of who they are, want their children to grow up in a safe and prosperous Britain. Are against the Islamisation, against the rape gangs, or against all these things, but they want you to feel alone, and you're not alone. You're not alone. But they were successful for a period through to censorship. But I think those days are gone, and I'm quite happy and excited about what comes next for Britain. I think this shift in public opinion that people are seeing, you just saw it in Reform's recent election. And I know there's been a lot that's gone on, certainly whilst I was in custody, with regards to Reform, Nigel Farage. I would just say that I want what's best for Britain. And I think Britain is primed for political revolution. That does not have to mean people attacking each other. Yeah. I just want to make sure that the country is primed and the people are primed, they have their voice.
Yeah. And I've had a number of people on the Andrew Eborn show. We've often asked them about their views on Tommy Robinson. Nigel mentioned Nigel Farage. Yeah. What's your current view of Nigel?
I don't know if Nigel's... I understand people's concern and fear. As I said, I was made into a toxic brand successfully. And Nigel may be worried about that. My words would be, Nigel, I'm not your enemy. I'm certainly not your enemy. And regardless of what's been said, I just think that the politics of throwing people under the bus or feeling like you need to do that, you don't need to anymore. Yeah, you don't need to anymore. And maybe Nigel's bought into the media perception of myself. Nigel, I've never met Nigel. I think that people should be judged on not what the media are telling you. You should find out who people are for yourself.
And that's something which we touched on last time we spoke about, actually the liberation, if you like, of X, as it's now called, meant that you have a platform to say exactly what you want to say, what Tommy Robinson wants to say. You may disagree with it, but it's what you want to say without it being edited.
Without it being edited, so people can hear what I'm saying, or what they're saying I'm saying. So it's so easy to take headlines and clips and try and cause divide, or so many in the media have done that to us for years. So when people actually take in context what I'm saying, they realise, oh, he's not an extremist. He's actually quite a fair bloke and a normal bloke. And I think that the country's ready for serious change. and I've been waiting. Many in Europe have been waiting to see this. We've watched populism. I watched it first start in India under Modi. I watched Brazil, then we saw America with Trump, and we've seen other European nations it's happening, and just been waiting. Britain needs this. And I've made it pretty clear, yeah? I want to play my part. I believe my skill and my part is to unite people in a fabulous cultural movement, and also to use journalism. I didn't want to be a politician. I didn't want to be a politician. I didn't want to be involved in politics. I was quite happy that there's a political voice for people, but just want to make sure that voice is true. That's it.
Elon Musk, as you know, is on my show all the time.
Yeah.
And he talked to me in this viewed you as the new Mandela. What do you think about that?
I was very happy to hear the positive comments coming from Errol, coming from people all over the world. I think that there's been a shift where people who wouldn't mention my name now feel free to mention it. People who wouldn't show support now feel free to show support. And if they're telling you negatively to think about a certain group and certain people, then question why. And all we're asking is people question. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything I say, but I'm happy to debate and discuss my opinions.
And that's the point, isn't it? It's urging people to question everything.
Question everything.
And if you
question
listen,
what I say, don't take fact of what I say.
Yes.
And I say to people, if I make a documentary or if I make statements, go away afterwards and check out what I say, yeah, and see if it's true. You'll find it is, yeah. Do the same with the mainstream media, and you'll go down the rabbit hole and find out they're lying.
And what I love about this is it's a positive message you're talking about now, about uniting the United Kingdom, because it's not united at the moment, it's fragmented. How would you unite it?
Well, I started my activism, and I didn't want to, but I started my activism, I was 23, 24 years old. I'm a very different man at 42. I'm a father of 3. I want what's best for this country. I've matured a lot. It's not to say I haven't made mistakes, of course I have. I want what's best for Britain. And I want what's best for our country. And how would I unite it? I'd unite it by giving people a sense of identity again. We've lost it. We've lost the community spirit. So many people in this country think of themselves, don't care as long as I'm okay. We need to start thinking to make sure everyone's okay. This problem isn't just going to affect me or my kids, it's going to affect your kids. And the most important thing here is free speech for me. Because if we don't have free speech, we lose everything. If we don't have the right to criticise, and it's all very well thinking of free speech, but so long as they're controlling everything, the media, all of the social medias, you may think you've got free speech, but you're only getting a spoon-fed narrative that's being fed to you by the establishment every time, whether it's about people or about agendas. So, yeah.
I think that's the important point, because everybody pays lip service to free speech, but the reality is that it's never been in a more critical condition.
How many people have you heard recently say we live in a free country? No one says anymore. People realise we don't. We need to. People realise we don't. But the public want it to be a free country. We want free speech. And the establishment and the government, and certainly the Labour Party, I don't feel believe in free speech. So, yeah, I'm excited, and I think I can play an important role. As I said, I've just come out of 7 months of sitting in a room on my own every day. Yeah. So, I want to play an important role. And I think that, do you know, I look at things maybe like they're a trailer to a film, but I feel like I've done my apprenticeship. Yeah. I've learned a lot. I know where I made mistakes. I've certainly, do you know, when we used to hold demonstrations, we'd allow ourselves to be infiltrated. We'd allow the government, if you want to Google special demonstration squad, the government have groups that they send into demonstrations to cause trouble, yeah, to come all dressed in black. They will cause confrontations, and then the media will be there, working for the establishment, to take pictures of violence and trouble, and then portray the entire group of people or the organisation as thugs or hooligans. I've learned that with the English Defence League, yeah? So now on our demonstrations, we won't allow face coverings. Yeah. Anyone who comes to us, our events, and people say, yeah, but I worry about my job, well, stay at home, yeah? Please, because you're going to take away the message, the importance of the message. We tell people now, bring your smiles. Don't bring face coverings, bring your smiles. Yeah? We're going to celebrate. We're not ashamed of who we are. We're not ashamed of what we stand for. We've got nothing to be embarrassed about. So that's our message. And we want to have fun at the same time.
And that's the shocking thing, isn't it? Because people assume, when they look at the crowds of people at your rallies, they assume they're going to be a very different crowd. And actually it is. It's families and other bits and pieces, isn't it?
It's beautiful. And do you know what? The feeling, I'll explain one story.
Yeah.
I went to Poland in 2015, and I went to experience their Independence Day.
Yeah.
And in their Independence Day, there was 250,000 Poles, and they had children on their shoulders, flags, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. And I stood there and I said, I can feel this, yeah? I feel power. And it was the power of all those people uniting together for their identity. And I interviewed Polish people who had lived in England, and they said, your elder generation, they know who they are. Your new generation, they are lost. And they're right. And I felt jealous, and I felt we don't have what they've got. Yeah? That sense of identity, that sense of being willing to celebrate and proudly celebrate who they are, their flag, their nation. And then at our last United Kingdom event, especially on the 27th of July last year, we had well over 100,000 people. And I felt it. And I remember walking at the front thinking, wow, this is what I felt in Poland. And that sense of bringing people together, the power it does, unifying people under our cultural identity as a nation under our flag, is the last thing they want. And doing it in a calm atmosphere, that then when people watch our videos, they see that, and then they read the media portrayal, and then you've got 100,000 people who attended, and they know the media are lying. And what the media don't realise, they're digging their own graves. I look at the mainstream media thinking, you are the analogy, you're walking around with terminal illness, you don't even realise it. Yeah? We're the future. Citizen journalism is the future.
Well, now everybody's got a smartphone, everybody's got access to this sort of stuff. You've got your own free speech platform in X, and Elon is an absolute advocate for that sort of side. People now can get to the truth, and I think that's the interesting thing. You talked about regrets, you talked about mistakes. What are those mistakes you've now realised?
No, the mistakes is just maybe how we carried it out. Remember, as I said, when I started Mac when I was 25, I went from working on a building site with a small young family to being the leader of the biggest street protest movement in 6 months. I'd never organised a protest. I didn't know what it was to organise a protest. I didn't understand left-wing, right-wing newspapers. I didn't understand the attack that I'd faced by the media. I didn't understand all of it, and then trying to deal with the pressures at times of becoming an enemy of the state overnight for trying to raise issues that, remember, they'd successfully covered up the rape scandal across this country for 30, 40 years. And then we come along and we're busting it open in the streets. They would do everything they can to cover it up. Now, how? I remember Mo Ansar, a gentleman, wrote to, who was it in the British government? And the response said, we are working to address the driver of the English Defence League. Yeah? This was at the start of the English Defence League. And in that first 6 months of forming that organisation, I had 3 huge police raids on my family's homes. By working to address the driver of the English Defence League, what they meant is we're going to crush him. We're going to silence him. But I've just continued to battle on, and I've known what I'm standing for is right. I'm not standing for hate, I'm standing for love. I love my country, I love my kids, and we've continued. And obviously the mistakes I've made, I think, through those years at times, I was in a dark place. I've continued to be in a dark place at many times. I felt low, I felt surrounded, I felt under attack. I felt for the last 7 months like I'm being punched by the establishment every day. And sometimes I look and think, how do I deal with this? Where do I go with this? But I'm lucky enough now that the public have seen it. I'm lucky enough now that people see what we stand for. And if I could have my way again, I'd have remained teetotal, sensible, and fit and healthy. I think the most important thing I've realised is to stay physically fit and be in the best place possible and the best version of myself. And I think that even now, say that, I probably ain't the best version of myself. I've just come out of 7 months of solitary confinement. I may put on a brave face, but I will face struggles from that. But I've never felt so much love and support as I feel now. You know, when I walk down the street, it's insane. And I went into the gym yesterday. The reaction I'm receiving everywhere I go is so heartwarming to realise that from the start, in 15 years, I've faced full attack from the establishment and their media in the most organised way, and it just hasn't worked.
So why do you think that people are attacking you if you've now got this message of unification and it's shining a spotlight? I always say that sunlight is the best disinfectant. You turn around and say, actually, that's what we've got. Trust. I always talk about trust. Trust comes in on foot and leads on horseback. And trust in politicians, trust in parts of the media, trust in certain other things is at an all-time low. How do we restore that trust?
By totally ignoring the media. The new media are the answer. The podcasters, the shows like yourself, the citizen journalists, the people live streaming, the people who are out on the street giving you straight, there's the news. We don't go. Do you know what I realised? Because I don't watch TV, but because I just spent 7 months sat in a room watching the mainstream news. So as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, I wonder what's really going on. And if I was outside, I'd just go on X. And within 5 minutes, I'd find out exactly what's happening, whilst I'm being spoon-fed this absolute nonsense from the mainstream media about anything, whether it be an attack. Whenever there's a terrorist attack, I sit there and I think, I don't need to know what you're saying. I go straight for the source, which now has become citizen journalists, people with these, giving you straight, here's what's happening. So people don't trust the media. At least people know when they listen to me, they know what I say is what I believe. They know that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I was to say to my own family and other bits and pieces is try and get your source from many different information from many different sources.
Do you know what I used to do? I used to watch Al Jazeera, Russia Today on BBC.
So you and me go.
That's what I used to do. I used to pick up, okay, let's see what the Russians are saying. That's what they're saying. Let's see what Al Jazeera is saying.
Right.
That's what the BBC is saying. And somewhere in the middle will be a balance.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I've appeared on all those platforms saying the same thing, so, which is interesting. But you're right, and that's what you need to look at. It's when people recollect and recap on the same story, but with a different slant on it. Yeah. And I think that's where the truth lies, somewhere in between that sort of side.
And do you know what I find as well? So I find a lot of the problems that we talk about, or that I talk about, I find that many Muslims agree with me.
Yeah.
Like the sexualisation of children through the education system, the promotion of the LGBTQ plus agenda, which is a danger to everyone's children. I think these issues can unify everyone because people are fed up with it. Yeah. But yeah.
And I think that's the important point. You talk in a very positive message about unification. And as you say, you want to unite everybody. It's not uniting the right, it is uniting everybody because we share some common values.
I don't see many of the policies, I don't see many of the things as right. I don't think anyone takes everything from the right. I think most people look and think, I agree with that from the left, that from the right. But this pigeonholing, that if you want to defend Britain, want to defend your culture and love your country, you're far right extremist. It's like nonsense. So many of the people, I think, would surprise people at our events of the diversity of the support base.
So, personally, we talked about politics. You didn't necessarily want to be a politician rather than shining a spotlight, but we talked about Mandela. Do you see your path going in a similar way? Would you get in politics? Would you set up a new party, or would you join one of the existing ones?
I believe my place, I believe my skill, and I believe that, you know what, I'm just going to say this, I'm a great journalist.
Yeah.
Many people ain't going to like hearing that, okay? My documentaries and my films, if anyone takes the time to watch them, they're brilliant. And the team I have that I work with, I'm blessed. And I think I can go on to do some fabulous work. And I think my role is to help awaken people. I don't think I'm necessarily going to be the person who's going to bring about change, but hopefully I'll put the idea in the next person's mind. Or at least wake them up. So many people just don't know the problems that are faced in many of our towns and cities. I want them to understand them. So my role, as I said, I think I'm in a unique position. I want to use it for positive. I want the best for Britain.
But would you be a politician?
Would I be a politician? I'm going to say again, I don't want to be a politician.
Okay.
I don't want to be a politician. I would hope that parties out there and political figures out there stay true and represent the fears that, you see, I'd say the name Tommy Robinson, or what it's become, is not about me. Yeah, there's a movement of people who feel ignored, feel betrayed in a massive sense, and their level of frustration and anger, which we've tried to harness and direct, is justified. We have been betrayed. It's not the politicians. Many of these politicians, you're not dealing with it. You don't live in the affected areas like we do. And the affected areas and affected waiting lists and the hospitals and the dentists that you can't get dentist appointments, all these problems, whilst people are sitting watching. And now with the power of this, they're seeing firsthand £15 billion we've spent on putting men, majority, 90% men, fighting age men, from countries which cultures will struggle to integrate into this country. And I don't blame those men, because if I could go, if we had a terrible country and I could go to a better country and get a better standard of living, I probably would, but I blame our government for facilitating it and allowing it. And our government's job, first and foremost, is to protect British people, and they're failing miserably. They seem more interested in protecting people from Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, than they do protecting British women. And for me, what I care about is protecting British women, first and foremost, and protecting the British population. And when I say the British population, I don't mean white people. I mean that everyone who's here needs to be protected, and our government are failing.
You changed your name. What was the catalyst for that?
What was the catalyst for it? So I use many pseudonyms. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I started, in 2004, I held my first ever demonstration. Called it Ban the Looting Taliban. And I used my own name. and I stood on the town centre, on the steps in my town centre, and I read a speech. And the leaflet from that speech made it onto the front page of my local newspaper. And my narrative has never changed, and what I've said never changed. It said whites and blacks are being religiously and relationally targeted in our town. Pakistani gangs are using heroin as a weapon to form kids into prostitution, so what we now know as grooming. I said this in 2004 in my town. Do you know what I faced after that? A total onslaught from the Pakistani gangs in the town. So fast forward 5 years later to 2009, when our soldiers were attacked in Luton. I wanted to speak about that issue, but I knew that I'd face years of attacks for daring to speak about previous issues. So I used a pseudonym, and the pseudonym I used, Tommy Robinson, was a pseudonym that had already been used in Luton for a book on football healers. It wasn't a man's name. So I used that name, in all honesty, to protect my identity, protect my family. At the time, so people understand, when I started the English Defence League, I had, between me and my wife, 7 properties and 2 successful businesses. Right. I had the success story as a young man. Yeah, I was flying. I think that, as I said, at 25 years old, 7 properties, 2 businesses, doing very well. I had the ability to leave Luton and move out to a nice area, and in my own little bubble, ignore the problems that are there. But I've seen the problems that are there, and those problems that are there are simply going to come there. So unless we challenge it, which I knew, and that's all the pseudonyms to do with. I used a different name. People going by Yaxley Lennon. Yaxley was my birth parent family name, and I was adopted. So Yaxley, birth father, Lennon, real father, doesn't take DNA to make you a dad, but Lennon is where the 2 names come together. And then I got rid of the name Yaxley because when I had children, I wanted them to take on my what is classed as my dad's name.
What do they call you at home?
What do they call me? Stephen, my mum.
Right.
Stephen! Like that, usually. Shut up! No, friends call me, because I grew up with the name Yaxley. Yes. My friends call me Yax. So everyone in Luton growing up knew me as Yax. Right. But then I answer to Tommy, I answer to Stephen, and do you know what it's like living with 2 personalities? Because when I go home to my children, I'm Stephen. And when I walk out the door to people in politics, I'm Tommy. I blame everything on Tommy. For years with the ex-wife, I said it was Tommy. Blame him, all right? Yeah. Stephen's cool, Stephen's nice.
I know you talked about your family. How do your family react about your being such a public figure and saying the things that you do? And the consequences?
Yeah, my family have probably faced a lot of fear. My son sat here recording this. He's probably had to think things that children shouldn't have to think. Worry about things they shouldn't have to worry. But fortunately, what they've experienced the whole time since they've been babies is they know me and they know my large circle of friends. So when people make labels as racist and things like that, they know it's nonsense. So I remember my son was on the train and my best friend was a Muslim lad. I said, just so you know, I have love for him, yeah? But I still have a strong opinion, just to make sure the kids understand that, like, they love him. So some of my friends are Muslim lads. So I said, they've known the difference since they got. They don't believe that, and they see the reaction I receive off the public. So the great thing is they get to see, when I walk down the street, people come over and they're pleasant and have great conversations and show lots of love. And I think the first ever demonstrations they went to were the United Kingdom ones, and it was a great thing for them to stand and watch because they hear so much hatred against their dads, but then they also saw that there's a lot of love for them. Yeah, and it's difficult because every decision I make, they have to walk. So I played that film, I have to go to jail, that affects my kids. That affects what they're thinking. And they've had probably difficulties in school and things like that. But I think things have turned, things have really shifted. And I'm grateful now that through our own social media platforms or through having the ability, people see who I am.
And what's the thing that people would find surprising about Tommy Robinson?
That I'm this big. Like a man only smaller. You can pull his sock. No, people will pass me and go, Tommy? Yeah. Jesus.
How tall are you?
Not very. As tall as his socks. I'm 5'6", but my mum is 4'11". So when people say I made it. My mum's size 12 kids' feet. Yeah. So she's a fiery little mad Irish lady, the most wonderful woman you ever meet in your life. But yeah, I think that would surprise people. But I'm just I think the thing is, I'm just a normal lad. Yeah, and I'm not, and I've never claimed to be anything I'm not. So
we spoke about your regrets and some of those doing things differently.
I don't have any regrets.
Okay, no regrets. There's a song there somewhere.
I don't have any regrets because even when you make mistakes or you end up in a bad situation, you learn from it. And I think that most of those hardships, mistakes, problems chisel your character. And I think that where I sit now, I wouldn't be sitting with the, as I said, I feel like I've done my apprenticeship. I wouldn't be sitting there without all the mistakes. I wouldn't be sitting there with even sitting on my own in prison. I've done probably nearly 2 years of solitary confinement. I don't have any regrets.
It's lessons learned is probably what you're saying.
It's lessons learned, and rather than worrying, I like to now just view that I'm not worrying, I'm planning. Right. Try and put a positive spin on everything, to try and look at things more positively. I look at what they've done to Trump, I look at what they've done to Steve Bannon, Alex Jones, Marie Le Pen, Katie Hopkins. I look at all these different characters. They all face absolute relentless attacks.
But Lucy Connolly.
It's outrageous. Lucy Connolly, the poor woman sat in jail now. Do you know when you compare it to some of the attacks or some of the crimes people are committing and not getting put in prison? She said a few words on social media. She was angry and upset, and she was remorseful for what she said.
One of the things that I often speak about in the media is the advice she may have received from her team.
No, that's
who said if you plead guilty, you'll get a reduced sentence, which is true.
Yeah, but they all done that.
But if she's not guilty, she shouldn't plead guilty.
Yeah, but at that time, I interviewed families.
Yeah.
They politicised the courts and the judiciary. 48 hours. They held people. They remanded them all. Remember,
right.
So they put them into prison cells. And then once they're in prison, yeah. I've been here.
Yeah.
If you plead not guilty, it will take 6 months to get to trial. So you're going to spend 6 months in jail anyway, because they literally made a policy to remand everyone who was arrested at the riots, or to do with the riots, was remanded. So they're sat in a cell anyway. Then they're getting the advice: if you want to get out, plead guilty. I think more people are speaking out now than ever. Do you know what? I've been away for 7 months.
Yeah.
Do you know how many women? I'm looking through, because I'm catching up on videos.
Yes.
Women who are now becoming vocal. Okay. Women who are forming alliances and organisations and speaking up for the rights of women and the threat to women. It's so encouraging. I'm looking, thinking, wow, who's this lady? Who's this? Who's this? Do you know how much of a lonely place this side of politics was for a decade? It was literally, we were getting back from everywhere, trying to talk about these issues, and it was a lonely place. Now, it doesn't matter if they take one person out, because there's 100 stepping into a sea. The people are now talking about these issues, and the Overton window has been shifted. Lots of people have helped to shift it, certainly Elon Musk, certainly X. The confidence is given, certainly the most recent, it's certainly Nigel Farage. He shifted it. Reform have totally shifted it. That gives confidence to the public to know they're not alone.
Yeah. And talking of confidence, what advice would you give people who have concerns but are also in fear about expressing those concerns?
Express them. Did it work for me? Yeah, they locked me up. I'm still here, aren't I? I'm still here. They didn't silence me. I think you're only silenced if you allow them to silence you. You're gagged if you allow them to gag. And that doesn't mean I don't sympathise, because I used a pseudonym because I was scared. I wore a mask because I was scared. So I don't call anyone cowards, because I was a coward. Yeah, I was the same. I had the houses. I had the business. I didn't want to lose them. But there's now so many. So what I would give the advice is, if you want to remain silent because you're worried about your job, support the people that are speaking out across the board. Start subscribing to the YouTubers. Start supporting the citizen journalists. I'm not saying support me. Support all of them. When you see someone cut up and come in, they're the uncontrollable new media, and they're the future, and they can't be controlled. And that's the best thing. I just think, well, you can't control us.
Are you scared for your life?
Yeah, I'm scared for, of course I'm scared for my life. I'm scared for my family, but more than anything, I'm scared for Britain, because if we don't solve these problems, what does it look like in 10 years? Ask yourself this. Go back 10 years. Look where we've accelerated. Look what's happening. Look how fast it's accelerated. Look at the attack on free speech. Look at even all the mad trans stuff when only now we had to have a court tell us a woman's a woman. Yeah? Look at that period of absolute insanity. Look what's happening in the education system. Look at the confusion of children. Look at all of this. Where are we heading? I'm scared of all of that. I'm scared of what it looks like for the next generation. I'm scared. I stop thinking of ourselves. I look at my children. I'm already thinking of their children that aren't even born yet. What's it going to look like? We need to stand up now more than ever. And I think that the more people talk out, it gives more confidence to more people. And the biggest message is you're not alone.
And what excites you about the future?
I'm worried about the future. What excites me is that I guess that the public are awakening. The public are not buying it. And there's been a massive shift. And there's no amount of lawfare that can change that. The cat's out of the bag. Yeah, people are awake. They're questioning everything. They know they're being lied to. It's a sad state of affairs. You know what sad state of affairs now is? We could face a proper pandemic tomorrow and no one's going to believe them. We could face proper risk and threat but no one's going to believe them. No one believes anything we're being told. That's a dangerous time to be in, because the public aren't listening and they question everything, which we've been lied to so many times. We've seen the lies. We know they've lied. You can't trust them, and they've created a terrible atmosphere.
And then what I love, we started this talking about a positive message, about uniting. People should question everything, because that's the way that you build back trust. Looking back at your life, what's been your proudest moment?
My proudest moment? Well, my son's here, so I'm going to have to say the birth of my son. Definitely you, son.
There you go, there you go.
If you go outside, I'll tell you. No, my children. Definitely my children. They've had to face a lot, and I'm proud of them. And I said that when I was in prison and custody.
But it's emotional, isn't it? I think we talk about being inside. It gives you a chance to reflect. You have this wonderful, powerful persona.
I'm proud of my daughters if they're watching. I'm proud of my family and how they've handled it. And my mum and my dad and everyone.
What would you like to say to them?
We win in the end. Don't worry. I keep saying, they don't decide who we are, we decide who we are, and I think history will look favourably on everything we've stood for. My videos and my speeches will age well in comparison to those who oppose me. So, yeah. And yeah, as I said, I'm proud of my family, proud of what they've gone through and how they've handled it.
Finally,
yep.
How would you like to be remembered?
As 6 foot. I've got my prison records, it says I'm 5'7". I'll say yes, I'll take that. How would I like to be remembered? Working class kid from Luton. I don't want to be anything else, if I'm honest. I don't want to be anything else. I want to be who I am, I want to be true to who I am, and that's who I am. And I think that, that's it. Yeah, I think that's what I'd like to be remembered as. Successful, honest journalist.
And uniting the United Kingdom.
And uniting the kingdom, yeah. And having fun along the way, because no matter how hard it is or how bad it is, we always like to bring a smile to it.
Tommy, Stephen, Yaks.
Thank you.
No,
thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.